Sometimes at Yankee Stadium, you look like you're about to go home with a W. And then, unfortunately, Aaron Judge does Aaron Judge things. We'll recap the Orioles' heartbreaking loss to the Yankees, plus some O's injury news coming up on this episode of the Locked on Orioles podcast.
You are Locked on Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fans, today is Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, and welcome back into the Locked on Orioles podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap a heartbreaking loss for the Orioles as they fell 6-5 in extra innings to the New York Yankees on Tuesday. I'll let you know the 5 things you need to know from that one, including the O's hit pretty well against Gerrit Cole, one bad pitch from Félix Bautista, and an up and down start from Kyle Bradish. Then we'll get a little into how the Orioles have pitched pretty well, or hit pretty well, I should say, against some solid starters this year, before finally talking about some Orioles injury updates that we got on Tuesday. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked on Orioles podcast. Couldn't do it without the everydayers out there, so I thank you for making Locked on Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. For your first listen today, we start with a heartbreaker. Yeah. This one hurt. Yankees 6, Orioles 5, the final in 10 innings at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx on Tuesday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Yankees win it on an Anthony Volpe walk-off sac fly in the bottom of the 10th off of Brian Baker. And the O's, with the loss, now just 13-3 in series openers this year, and they are 31-17 on the season. Still sitting 3 games back of the Rays, who did lose on Tuesday night 20-1 against the Blue Jays. And here come the Yankees. They're now 30-20. They have been red hot over the past couple of weeks. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from the extra innings loss. First thing you need to know is that, well, the Orioles' extra inning magic, it just kind of ran out in this one, right? I mean, they had some incredible magic over the weekend in Toronto. They win the game on Saturday. They score 5 runs in the 11th inning on Sunday, and they sweep that Blue Jays series. And then, of course, we'll get to why it went to extras, but it went to extras for the 3rd straight game on Tuesday, and the O's just didn't have it. You know, Adley Rutschman started the inning at second base. The O's went strikeout, and then Adam Frazier hit a flare to shortstop. I thought it was going to be a base hit. Volpe made a nice leaping catch, and it was the 0 in the top of the 10th. You knew Bautista and Cano couldn't come out there, so with anybody else, you don't feel good with that zombie runner at second base. The Yankees get a ground out, gets him to third. Orioles go intentional walk, and then on the first pitch, 1st and 3rd, 1 out, Volpe with the sac fly to center that walks it off and wins the game. It's unfortunate, but when you play 3 extra inning games in a row, it's really, really hard to win all 3 of them. Second thing you need to know from this one on the hitting side for the Orioles is that Gunnar Henderson went deep, as did Cedric Mullins off of Gerrit Cole in this game. Nice night for Henderson, who went 2 for 4 in this game, also had an an infield single, which eventually led to an Orioles run that gave them the lead in the 6th inning, 5-4. But the Mullins home run, he almost had 2 of them in this game, but the first Mullins home run, at least the one that actually counted in this one, in the 3rd inning, 100 miles per hour off the bat, a solo shot to right field. And then he came up in the 6th with the bases loaded and 2 outs, and he hit a fly ball to right field that ended up dying on the warning track. But off the bat, it looked like it was going to be a Yankee Stadium short porch grand slam. Would have completely changed this game. Ended up just being a fly out. But Gunnar's home run, even more impressive than Mullins' home run. It was a Gunnar solo shot that put the Orioles up 4-0 at the time of the swing in the 4th inning. 101.6 off the bat, 404 feet to right center field for the homer. And good to see those 2 guys flash some power, especially Gunnar Henderson. Third thing you need to know from this one, Adam Frazier staying hot for the O's. He got the scoring started with a 2-run double in the first inning that hit off the glove of Aaron Judge to put the Orioles up 2-0. Also had a base hit later in the game. And quite frankly, Adam Frazier could have easily had a 4-hit day. He was robbed twice of singles by Anthony Volpe at shortstop in this game, with the biggest one being the one in the 10th inning. Frazier had a big weekend in Toronto this weekend. He continues to swing the bat very, very well for the Orioles, and has been a nice piece kind of, in the middle part of this lineup right now. Still not a whole lot of power, but still doing things with the bat for the O's. Fourth thing you need to know from this one is that, well, the Orioles bullpen started off really, really good. York Cano was great in this one. 2 scoreless innings. Brandon Hyde, brings in Michael Givens in the 6th. He was throwing 90. That was a little concerning, but he got a 1-2-3 6th inning with a strikeout. He had Givens face the bottom of the order, and it was perfect managing by Brandon Hyde. He goes to York Cano in the 7th with the top of the order due up. He gets through that. Didn't throw that many pitches, so Cano comes back out for the 8th. Does allow a 2-out double, but gets out of that with 2 strikeouts. Throws 30 pitches in 2 scoreless innings. Offense didn't help him by extending the lead, but he goes to Félix Bautista with the top of the order up in the bottom of the 9th. He's facing Torres, Judge, and Rizzo with a 1-run lead. He strikes out Torres. He gets 0-2 on Judge with 2 fastballs, and he just makes a bad pitch. He goes to the splitter, which I don't mind the pitch selection there, but he just leaves it up. And I don't understand people who think, why would you throw the pitch there? Of course, Félix Bautista is not trying to throw a middle splitter to Aaron Judge. Well, Judge hit it out of the ballpark for a solo home run in the 9th that tied the game. It wasn't exactly a smashed home run from Aaron Judge. I mean, he's hit him further, but it did go 102 off the bat, 403 feet high in the air to left field for a game-tying solo home run. And, well, Bautista did just kind of settle right back in after that and got 2 more strikeouts, did end up striking out the side, but that one big swing was the difference again. He was trying to bury the splitter, just didn't get it where he wanted, threw it in the middle of the plate instead, and he paid for it, and the Orioles paid for it. It happens. Bautista, I thought, honestly, besides that pitch, looked really, really good, looked almost unhittable for the other 14 pitches he threw in that 9th inning. Just made one bad pitch, and it happens. And then Brian Baker didn't do a bad job at all in the 10th. It's just when you're, playing with the zombie runner out there in a tie game, it's really hard to get it to the next inning. It's really not a bad job by Félix. He just made one bad pitch. Brandon Hyde managed it very well. Sometimes you just don't come out on top. Fifth and final thing you need to know from this one, Kyle Bradish was just kind of okay in this game. 5 innings, 4 runs, I should say, 7 hits, 3 Ks, 3 walks, a home run allowed, a solo shot to Harrison Bader in the 4th inning. Then things kind of unraveled in the 5th when he gave up 3 runs, 90 pitches for Bradish, 8 hard hit balls across the 5 innings. He was able to complete 5, although it was kind of a rally, the 3-run rally in that 5th inning. But for Bradish, stuff-wise, that was a concerning start. Now, once again, he went with mostly sliders, which I like to see. 33 of his 90 pitches were the slider. It was by far his most used pitch. But he only got 2 whiffs on 12 swings on the slider, and he only got 4 total whiffs on 36 pitches. That was the lowest number, I believe, by any Orioles starter that's finished at least 3 innings in any start this season. That was very concerning. The stuff was not crisp. He kind of was effectively wild through the first 4 innings, and then it all caught up to him in the 5th. He was coming off of back-to-back really, really good starts, so I'll give him a pass here. But this was not the usual Kyle Bradish that we are used to seeing go out there for the Orioles. And some of these games, it's just a tough break. I mean, you have the Yankees down to your final 2 outs. You're facing Judge. You're not going to intentionally walk him there, especially when you get ahead 0-2. Félix just missed. Plain and simple, he missed with a splitter. Judge is the best home run hitter in baseball. He will make you pay when you miss, and that's what happened. The O's unfortunately couldn't start a rally in extras, and they lose this one 6-5. But I would still say, there were some positives that came out of this game for the Orioles, and I would say positive number 1 for the O's in this game was they got to Gerrit Cole in this one. I mean, they had a 4-0 lead because they jumped on one of the best starters in the American League. So coming up next, we'll talk about how they got to Cole and how the Orioles have really gotten to some of the best pitchers across baseball so far in this season. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Rocket Money. Now, Rocket Money is honestly amazing. If you're sitting there, think about how much do you spend on subscriptions every year? Most people think it's about $80 a month, maybe. The total cost is actually closer to $200 a month. And if you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, you need Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills, all in one place. And Rocket Money will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you. And for any that you don't want to pay for anymore, just hit the cancel button and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. You don't have to do anything. It is that easy. They're saving the average person up to $720 a year. So stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. One more time, go to rocketmoney.com/lockedonmlb. So the Orioles fall in a tough one, 6-5 in extra innings against the Yankees to drop the opener of this series in walk-off fashion. Had a 4-0 lead, had a 5-4 lead with one out in the ninth, just couldn't put it away. Orioles now 27-2 when leading after 8 innings this year. It has not happened often that they've blown a late lead because Cano and Bautista have been so good. But again, one bad pitch to Judge can change your fortune in any game, especially a game at Yankee Stadium. But I thought early in the game, the Orioles did a really good job against Gerrit Cole. Cole got the ball in this one, and honestly, it was probably his worst start of the year, maybe his second worst. But 5 innings, 5 runs on 6 hits. He struck out only 2 batters. He walked 3. He gave up 2 homers. And the Orioles kind of squared him up in this game. They had 10 hard hit balls against Gerrit Cole in 5 innings. 2 strikeouts was his lowest output of the season. And really, the Orioles were kind of all over one of the best starters in the American League in this one. He only had 2 strikeouts and 7 swings and misses on 46 swings. The Orioles were just seeing everything really, really well in this game. And it was another example of the Orioles just having a good approach against Gerrit Cole. I was honestly really most surprised and most impressed by what the O's did in the first inning against Cole. You start the game, Cedric Mullins and Adley Rutschman both fly out to start the game. Cole's at like 6 pitches through those first 2 batters, and you're thinking, all right, he's going to get a quick 1-2-3, he's going to settle in. But then the O's start to battle. Anthony Santander battles, draws a 6-pitch walk. Ryan Mountcastle battles, he draws a 6-pitch walk. And all of a sudden, you got 2 on with 2 out, you're raising the pitch count. And then Adam Frazier runs the count, and he lines a double off the glove of Aaron Judge in right field, a 2-run double that puts the O's up 2-0. Cole would then get Austin Hayes out to end the inning, but you look up, and he was close to 30 pitches in that first inning when he got the first 2 outs on 5 or 6 pitches. It was really impressive to see not just Santander, but especially Mountcastle, Ryan Mountcastle, of all people, work the count against Gerrit Cole, run his pitch count up, and get on base and draw a walk in that first inning. And, you know, the 3 walks he allowed tied a season high, the 2 homers he allowed, as Cedric hit one in the 3rd, Gunnar in the 4th. Unfortunately, they were both solo shots, but still that's tied for the most that he's given up in any start this season. I was really impressed by that first inning. Now, he mowed him down in the 2nd, but then Mullins got to him, then Gunnar got to him, and then the Orioles got, the first 2 batters on in the 6th and forced him out of the game. And they got another earned run against Gerrit Cole when Terrin Vavra had an RBI ground out with the bases loaded. I just think they had a great approach. It was attack the fastball, attack anything in the middle of the zone. That's what they did, and lay off a lot of the off-speed stuff he tries to get you to chase with. And what the Orioles did really well in this game, which historically they've never done well against Gerrit Cole, is lay off that high fastball. Gerrit Cole has an elite fastball. It's got a really good spin rate. It kind of jumps on you. It's one of those fastballs that feels like it rises. And, oh, yeah, he'll throw it on an average at 97 and run it up to 99. And he likes to throw it up in the zone to get swings and misses. The O's just were not chasing that fastball. They put 26 swings on his 4-seam fastball in this game. They swung and missed only 3 times. That is by far the best the Orioles have ever looked. And they faced Cole a lot. By far the best the O's have ever looked against the Gerrit Cole fastball. I was just so impressed by that approach and the execution of the game plan by the Orioles. And it's been somewhat of a trend this year that the O's have had a really good game plan against some of the best starters in baseball. Now it's worked out to definitely varying degrees throughout the season. Some guys like Shane McClanahan have just absolutely shut them down. Eduardo Rodriguez took a perfect game into the 7th inning. Like, some guys have really gotten to them, but there's also been guys that they've gotten to. I know Dylan Cease hasn't had the greatest year, but he was a Cy Young contender last year. Orioles got him for 4 runs in 6 innings. They didn't look good early in that game on April 16th. And then the second time through the order, they just got to Cease and they kept it up. That Braves series, if you remember, May 5th against Max Fried, they put up 7 runs in 6 innings on Max Fried. It was that second time through the order. They just got to him. They hit 2 homers off him. They really made Fried work. And then how about Spencer Strider the next day? O's only got 2 runs off Strider on May 6th, but they made him throw 95 pitches in 5 innings. And although he struck out 10 and he was his normal Spencer Strider self, you'll generally see Strider pitch 6, 7, 8 innings. The Orioles got him out of there after 5, and that was one of the other games that they blew late. But they had a chance to win that game because they got one of the best starters out of the game after 5 innings because the O's were super patient against Spencer Strider. And then the other big one on the flip side, they weren't as patient in this one, but against Shohei Ohtani back on May 15th. 5 runs in 7 innings. They hit 3 home runs against Ohtani, and they just jumped on the mistakes. He throws a sweeper in the middle of the zone. O's jumped on it for those 3 homers. And they just had, varying plans. Sometimes it's been get the pitch count up. Sometimes it's lay off a certain pitch. Sometimes it's jump on something early in the count. And Ryan Fuller and Matt Borg-Schulte have done a great job coming together for this O's lineup, which has been a top 10 offense in baseball all of the year, to have a plan against these ace starters. And it continues to show. And yeah, the O's didn't get the win in this game. But when you can get 5 runs off Gerrit Cole, you give yourself a really good chance to win. And that's what the Orioles need to keep doing, giving themselves a chance to win. And I have confidence that against lesser starters, they're going to hit these guys, and they've done it. But if they can do it against Ohtani and Fried and Strider, and especially Gerrit Cole, who you're probably going to see a couple more times this season, that is going to be huge for the Orioles. Now, they do need to take it into tonight because O's and Yankees game 2 is at 7:05, and Nestor Cortes is on the mound. Now, Cortes has a 5.21 ERA this year, but he's dominated the Orioles throughout his career. This is going to be another test for the O's. Can they get to Nestor Cortes? And you can catch every single pitch of the hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app tonight between the O's and the Yankees. Just search Orioles. But again, hopefully they got a plan for Cortes as well. But despite the loss, getting to Gerrit Cole was a positive. And the O's honestly got not all, but some positive injury news on Tuesday. So coming up next to finish off the pod, we'll break down the injury news that we got from the Orioles before Tuesday's game. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs, I got to tell you, these are the most comfortable shorts I have ever worn. They are stretchy. The fabric looks good on me, and they're so much comfier than any of my other shorts. And they give you the freedom to just wear a pair of shorts anywhere. Maybe you're going to a meeting, hanging out with friends, just walking around the city, whatever it may be, you can wear the Bird Dogs. And they've got the lining in the shorts, which just makes it so much more comfortable. And again, they've got different sizes to fit a lot of different body types. You look good, you feel good, and it's just that fabric. It's that nice fabric where it still looks good, but you feel like you're wearing athletic shorts. It gives you that comfort down there as well. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB to get yourself a pair of these amazing Bird Dog shorts. And when you enter the promo code LockedOnMLB, they'll even throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Again, that is birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB to get your free tumbler and get your hands on the most comfortable shorts that you will ever own. So the Orioles fell to the Yankees 6-5 in extras on Tuesday, but they got some good, some bad injury news before the game on Tuesday. Just wanted to run it down before we wrap up here today on the pod. Wanted to start with DL Hall. Not exactly injury news because he's still pitching, but as we talked about on the pod last week, the Orioles are putting DL Hall in what they call a deload program. He pitched only 3 innings in his start last Tuesday. It was a planned 3 innings, and the Orioles said after the game, because of his back injury early in spring training, he didn't get to build up his strength in the weight room. That's why his velocity's been down. So we want to do a little less pitching, a little more weightlifting, I guess, and build his velocity back up. Well, the fastball was 93 to 96, which was a little better on Tuesday night, but he only threw 47 pitches, part of the deload process, but it didn't go well for Hall in his start in AAA Norfolk on Tuesday. An inning and 2/3, 6 runs on 5 hits, 3 Ks, 2 walks, 2 home runs. I'm kind of hoping the deload just turns him into a reliever at the big league level for the rest of this year because the stuff is still amazing. But, I mean, he got 6 whiffs, but he just was getting knocked around by the Cardinals AAA team. And one of those homers was Jordan Walker, who should be in the big leagues right now. But still, little concerning for Hall. We'll see how this, quote, deload continues. But after DL Hall pitched, in came Dillon Tate for what was, I believe, his 9th rehab appearance in the minors so far. Coming back from that elbow and forearm issue. Again, I'm worried about Dillon Tate. I mean, the fastball, the sinker was 92, 93, which is still down from his usual velocity. It's a little up from what we've seen it in his AAA rehab appearances, but he goes just 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, a run, a strikeout, a walk, 23 pitches, only 11 strikes and 12 balls, only 1 swing and miss. I don't know. I mean, he finished the 2nd inning for DL Hall, but then he couldn't even finish the 3rd. The Tides had to bring in Ofredi Gomez just to finish that 3rd inning. I don't know. I mean, 9 rehab appearances is a lot. I would say very concerned that Tate's going to go back on the injured list here. I just don't think he looks right. I mean, I saw some of the pitches he threw Tuesday. I just do not think he looks right out there. And I could be proven wrong, and maybe he comes back soon. I'm just a little concerned about it. Now, in AAA, there was one other piece of injury news, and that is that Kyle Stowers, who, of course, had his struggles at the big leagues, got sent back down to AAA. Kyle Stowers is now on the AAA injured list. Orioles put him on there with right shoulder inflammation on Tuesday, and that means that all 3 of Norfolk's projected starting outfielders, Hudson Haskin, Kyle Stowers, and Colton Cowser, are all currently on the injured list, which means Norfolk needed some outfield help. So they actually went out and the Orioles signed Ben DeLuzio to a minor league deal earlier this week and actually activated him and put him in the Norfolk starting lineup on Tuesday. Now you may be asking, well, why not call up Heston Kjerstad from AA or somebody else from the Bowie Bay Sox? I get that. But if it's not part of Heston's build-up plan, the O's aren't going to change the plan just because someone else got injured. So that's why they went out and signed DeLuzio. Now, Ben DeLuzio, right-handed hitting, 27-year-old outfielder, good defender, really good speed. He was with the Dodgers in AAA this year. Not much of a hitter. 106 plate appearances, was hitting just 180 with 1 home run. He's not going to be in the bigs this year. He's just here for depth while the Orioles get healthy again in Norfolk. Now, DeLuzio did play in the big leagues a little bit last year with the St. Louis Cardinals, had 25 plate appearances, got in 22 games, was 3 for 20, but he was really more of a pinch runner and a defensive replacement late in games for the Cardinals last year. He'll play some in Norfolk. They also have Daz Cameron, Shane Fontana down there as well, so he won't play a lot, but they just need a little depth on that roster with the 3 outfielders out. Now, I will say Hudson Haskin did start his rehab assignment on Tuesday night, so he should be back pretty soon into that Norfolk lineup. Hopefully Colton Cowser, with a little bit of the lower body issue, is back soon, and then hopefully the shoulder issue for Stowers is not too serious. We're waiting for kind of more word on the severity of that injury here at this point. 2 other injury news, both of them more positive. Ramón Urías is going to start his rehab assignment tonight in High A Aberdeen. He will DH for the Ironbirds, went on the IL on May 9th with a strained left hamstring, had a 756 OPS. For the Orioles at that time, was a fairly productive, not super productive, but fairly productive player in their lineup at that point. So we'll see how long it takes. Again, with him DHing to start, that means he's probably going to DH for a couple games, maybe get a day off in between, then start playing some third base, some second base in AA and AAA. So it's going to be at least a week, I would say, before we see Urías. I would say early June, we'll probably see him back in the Orioles lineup, but definitely a good first step that he will be playing in a baseball game, even though he's DHing here on Wednesday night. And then the last piece of good news was not as good a news as we wanted on Tuesday, but still good news. There was talk from Eric Garfield down in Sarasota that maybe John Means would be throwing in the Orioles' extended spring training game on Tuesday. Unfortunately, he did not end up pitching, but Eric said over on his Twitter page that he did see Means kind of throwing on the field before the game, but he never warmed up in the bullpen and never came in. But the fact that he's with extended spring training tells me that at some point soon, maybe this week, he's probably going to throw an extended spring training game, which is the first of still a somewhat long process. But throwing in an affiliated game is the first step towards getting back to the big leagues. Having that happen here in late May is a great sign for John Means, even that he's down there in Sarasota. It's still going to be sometime around mid-July, around the All-Star break, probably when they'll get him back. But this is a really, really good first sign, even though he hasn't thrown in the game yet, that he's at least down there in Sarasota and building up to pitch on a baseball field in a game once again for the first time since getting that surgery last May. But that'll do it for the injury updates, and that will do it for today's episode. Just a tough loss to swallow. I will say it helps that it's not the toughest loss of the year. Let's go back to game in Boston, game number 2 of the season. That one was worse. It also helps that the Orioles swept that series in Toronto over the weekend. They had no business winning the game on Sunday with no relievers, and yet they did it. That's why you win games like that. You build a little bit of a cushion for when your next game, you blow a late lead and lose a division game. That's why it was so nice to get that sweep. But hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you enjoyed the new look. Still kind of working out some of the different technological things I have to work with here. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. And also hope you like the new layout here. We got a little more for you to look at, not just my face here on the YouTube screen. But thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Yankees and Orioles game 2, Tyler Wells versus Nestor Cortez. I'll have the recap for you on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I am Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.